Chapter 2: The Bait and the Trap. The plan was set in motion. The designated battleground was a Culling Game colony in a forgotten corner of Tokyo, its urban decay and strategic isolation making it the perfect stage for a controlled conflict. The shattered skyscrapers and overgrown streets were already littered with the corpses of lesser curses, drawn and then summarily dispatched by the overwhelming power of the approaching sorcerers. The advance party consisted of two figures who represented a perfect duality: Kinji Hikari, whose cursed energy was so volatile it shimmered around him like a heat haze, and Maki Zenin, whose complete absence of cursed energy rendered her an almost undetectable ghost. They moved with a synchronized purpose, a lethal ballet of two opposite extremes. Hikari's presence was a blaring siren, a beacon of immense cursed energy designed to draw the attention of the apex predator they sought. Maki, on the other hand, was a whisper in the wind, her movements silent, her aura a void that Sukuna's sensing abilities would struggle to register. Suddenly, a flicker of motion, not a sound, not a surge of cursed energy, but a subtle distortion in the air itself. And then, he was there. Ryomen Sukuna, the king of curses, stood atop a crumbled building, his figure a stark silhouette against the pale, bruised sky. He was in Megumi's body, yet his presence was monstrous, radiating a cold, ancient malice that made the very air crackle. He looked down at the two sorcerers with an air of profound boredom, a predator sizing up two particularly pathetic-looking morsels. "Is this the best you can offer?" Sukuna's voice, a gravelly echo of Megumi's, filled the space. "Where is the honored one? Did he get lost on his way to his glorious death?" Hikari grinned, a wide, challenging smile that was completely unhinged. "He's busy. You're getting the B-team." Maki didn't speak. She simply vanished, her perfected heavenly restriction allowing her to move at a speed that transcended the limits of cursed energy-powered sorcerers. She was already behind him, her cursed tool, the split-soul katana, gleaming in her hand. Sukuna's smile widened, a cruel, amused twist of his lips. He didn't turn. Instead, with a casual flick of his wrist, a series of invisible slashes, cleave and dismantle, erupted in a spiderweb pattern. The attacks, which automatically adjusted their power to the cursed energy of the target, tore through the space where Maki had just been. But she was already gone, having predicted the attack and repositioned herself. "A simple trick," Sukuna scoffed, but a flicker of something new, irritation, crossed his face. This was the trap. Sukuna's innate technique Shrine was designed for a world where cursed energy was the currency of power. It was the ultimate, all-encompassing offensive, but it had a critical weakness against an opponent who operated outside of its rules. Maki was that opponent. Her body was a physical anomaly, a perfect martial counter to his slash-based techniques, which were optimized to deal with cursed energy reinforcement. She was a threat he couldn't simply cut. At that moment, Hikari unleashed his own domain. A blinding flash of light enveloped the area as his idle Death Gamble domain expansion materialized. It wasn't a domain meant for violence, but for luck. A stylized pachinko parlor appeared around Sukuna, forcing the King of Curses into a game he didn't understand. The air hummed with the cheerful, maddeningly out-of-place jingle of a pop song. "You call this a domain?" Sukuna sneered, but he was already being forced to expend cursed energy to defend against the information-heavy, non-damaging space. Hikari, having hit the jackpot, was now in his immortal state. A radiant aura of limitless cursed energy pulsed around him. He charged, a human battering ram of pure, untamed force. Sukuna's cleave attacks tore into Hikari, 1,000 lacerations appearing on his body in an instant. But with the same speed, the wounds sealed, the torn flesh knitting itself back together with effortless, unnatural speed. The sheer output of Sukari's cursed technique was no match for the automatic reverse curse technique granted by Hikari's jackpot. The battle became a brutal, one-sided spectacle of attrition. Sukuna, accustomed to ending fights in a single strike, was forced into a prolonged engagement. He was an unstoppable force meeting an immovable object. Every slash, every powerful blow he landed on Hikari was rendered meaningless. He was bleeding cursed energy, a resource even he could not replenish infinitely. Concurrently, Maki was a phantom menace. She would appear from his blind spots, a flash of motion too fast for the eye, and land crippling physical blows. Her strength, honed to a supernatural degree by her heavenly restriction, was enough to shake Sukuna, forcing him to engage in pure, close-quarters combat, a domain where his reliance on his cursed technique was a handicap. "You're a nuisance," Sukuna bellowed, the veneer of his cool arrogance beginning to crack. "An insect, and yet you do not die." This was the core of Phase 1, the attrition model. Hikari absorbed the punishment, a living shield of regenerating cursed energy, while Maki exploited the tactical vacuum created by his presence. Sukuna was forced to expend vast amounts of cursed energy, not to defeat them, but simply to keep up with them, to counter attacks that were a mockery of his power. The plan was working. The King of Curses, who had sought a worthy intellectual and physical rival, had instead found himself trapped in a tedious, humiliating war of attrition against two opponents he considered beneath him. His overconfidence had become the very thing that was draining his power, and the stage was being set for the next, more precise phase